Jonathan, the prince who fearlessly faced his father's wrath to fulfill God's plan for redemption. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the throne in Gibeah gleamed like the sun, adorned with intricate gold and precious stones. Yet within its splendor a darkness loomed. Jonathan, son of Saul, gazed upon it with a heart heavy with unspoken turmoil. From his youth he had forged a bond with David, a shepherd-turned-warrior whose valor had won Israel countless victories. Love for David coursed through Jonathan's veins, yet the weight of his father's jealousy bore down upon the throne. The air crackled with tension, each unspoken word reverberating in the vastness of the royal hall. How could Saul, once the anointed king of Israel, now harbor such bitterness toward the man God had chosen as his champion? Whispers of Saul's wrath grazed Jonathan's ears, and he found himself ensnared in a battle between loyalty to his father and allegiance to a friend who was not only beloved but also favored by God. As dusk descended, Jonathan's thoughts spiraled deeper into turmoil. The sweet fragrance of rosemary filled the air, a stark contrast to the bitterness rising within the court. Soon he overheard a fragment that ripped through him like a sharpened spear. Saul, embittered and tormented by the Spirit of the Lord, confided to his advisers his burning desire to eliminate David. Jonathan's heart raced. How could he bear the thought of his friend being hunted like a prey? With reckless courage illuminated by love, Jonathan sought out David in a secluded glade, where the wildflowers danced in the evening light. There, beneath the vast expanses of God's creation, Jonathan made his vow. "I will protect you, my brother," he swore, binding himself to David in a mighty covenant of friendship. They exchanged a solemn promise, destined to face the storm together no matter the cost. Yet, in the royal court, the storm awaited Jonathan's return. As he entered, his father's eyes, burning like coals, met his own. The air felt electric with the tension between them, a clash of wills born of love, duty, and faith. "You dare defend him," Saul bellowed, voice echoing through the chambers. "Your loyalty should dwell solely with your king." "Father, David serves you faithfully." Jonathan's voice shook with righteous defiance, the echo of truth bolstering his courage. "He has done nothing worthy of your wrath. He is the light in our midst, a blessing to Israel." The words hung heavily in the air, each one laden with the knowledge that it could unleash the full force of Saul's fury upon him. Silence enveloped them like a thick fog, and within that silence, Jonathan felt the weight of divine calling pressing upon his heart. This was not merely a conflict of kings, it was a manifestation of God's sovereign plan unfolding before their eyes. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's Word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's Word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the stillness, amid Jonathan's anguish, the 2 arrows he had prepared for a secret message caught his eye. His heart mirrored the growing crisis within Israel, a reminder that the future hung in the balance. He resolved to warn David, each arrow a beacon of hope or despair. Would it signal a gathering storm or the dawn of redemption crafted in the heart of God? In this sacred trust, the tale of loyalty, love, and looming destiny began. Jonathan stood between 2 worlds, each filled with burdens of expectation and love. The chill of night brought clarity amidst the turmoil, and he clung to the urgency of his resolve. In the quiet of his royal chambers, he knelt, pressing his forehead to the cool floor, seeking the face of the Almighty. "O Lord," he cried, "you who know the heart, guide my steps. Show me how I may protect the Anointed One, the friend you have chosen." As dawn broke, Jonathan prepared himself for the task. He took the arrows, carved from fine wood, a symbol of communication between him and David. He knew that in the fields to the east, danger lurked. David awaited his signal. Could he endure the uncertainty, the threat of Saul's anger casting a dark shadow on the covenant they had established? Meanwhile, in the heart of Gibeah, King Saul burned with fury. The words of Jonathan rang in his ears, tormenting him, like a dark cloud obscuring the light of reason. Rage flared anew as he addressed his counselors. "I will not let this boy David usurp my throne. I shall strike him down before he becomes a threat." His voice thundered against the stone walls, resonating with unholy conviction. The Spirit of the Lord had left him, and in that wilderness of despair, he became a vessel of vindictiveness. As Jonathan made his way to the appointed meeting place, the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows upon the earth. The field stretched wide before him, a witness to the unfolding drama, and in the distance David's form appeared, a silhouette against the light. With determined strides, Jonathan approached, heart pounding with the weight of unmentionable decisions. "David," he called, the air thick with unspoken words. David turned, his gaze piercing through Jonathan's false bravado. "What news, my brother?" There was a weight in his voice, a strength buoyed by their bond, yet tempered with dread. "Saul seeks to kill you," Jonathan confessed, the words spilling forth like a torrent. "You must flee, for his heart is full of rage." They stood, a veiled truth. Hanging between them, treachery threatening to sever their divine connection. David's brow knit in pain, a resolve overtaking him. "I cannot believe my own fate lies in the hands of man. Have I not served him loyally? Why this hatred?" Tears glistened in his eyes, the innocence of friendship colliding with the turmoil of royal discord. "Fear not," Jonathan urged, reaching out to clasp David's shoulder. "For the Lord has plans for us both. His covenant shall stand unbroken. You are anointed, and one day the throne will belong to you." There in the field, under the gaze of heaven, they pledged their loyalty anew, sealing their words in a bond that even death could not defy. As David turned to leave, Jonathan dispatched the arrows with a swift prayer. Each flight, soaring through the azure sky, represented the fate of nations, the struggle of the soul, and the inescapable trajectory of God's divine will. With dread, he whispered to himself, "May it be a sign of grace or the herald of darkness." And in that moment, the heavens seemed to pulse with expectancy, the fabric of destiny woven intricately by the hands of the Almighty. Jonathan sensed a stirring in his spirit, for what was unfolding before them was a tapestry of trials and triumphs, the divine purpose yet to be fully revealed. Thus, uncertainty loomed, but faith, resilient and unyielding, took hold. Within their hearts, an echo of a whispered promise resounded. God's plan for redemption was taking shape, yet its full manifestation remained hidden, a divine mystery waiting to unfold. What greater purpose lay beneath the surface of their trials? What would be the ultimate cost of their covenant? As the shadows lengthened around them, the answers hung tantalizingly just beyond their grasp, drawing them forward into the unknown. As evening cloaked the land, David journeyed into the obscurity of fate, his heart heavy with the burden of betrayal and loss. The fragrant air of the blooming fields that had once promised joy now suffocated him with the specter of uncertainty. Echoing in his mind were the whispered promises of Jonathan, but as he fled, the shadow of King Saul loomed larger in his mind. "O Lord," David cried out as he sought refuge among the crags and rocks, "why dost thou leave me in this storm? Dost thou not see my plight?" In Gibeah, King Saul's fury compounded with each passing moment. "Bring me reports of David," he commanded his men, his voice a sharp blade of anger. His tormentor, fear of losing his kingdom, corrupted his soul. Those loyal to him began to whisper among themselves, caution tinged with the stench of betrayal. "My king," one officer ventured, "is it wise to pursue the son of Jesse? He has served you well." "Silence!" Saul bellowed, his eyes ablaze with wrath. "For every moment David lives, my throne is at stake." Darkness crept into his heart, bit by bit, as he commanded the search. The very spirit that once led him faded away, leaving a hollow man intent on madness. His commands shattered the peace of the land, echoing off the hills of Judah like a chorus of despair. Meanwhile, David took refuge in the cave of Adullam, a place rich with shadows that matched the turmoil within him. As he breathed the damp air, the depths of his soul wrestled with anguish and confusion. Then, like a heavenly balm, the Lord's presence enveloped him. The Spirit of God spoke to his heart. "I have not forgotten you, O Anointed One. My covenant stands firm." In that secret place, a gathering of the discontented and disenchanted came to him, drawn by his plight. The distressed, the in debt, and those bitter in spirit took refuge in his cave. Amidst their hopelessness, David rose as a leader, binding their brokenness as one. He taught them psalms of lament and praise, showing them that God's faithfulness endures even through trials. "Fear not, for the Lord will deliver us," he proclaimed. And their hearts ignited with a flicker of hope, kindled by the unwavering light they saw in David. Back in Gibeah, Saul, consumed with vengeance, devised wretched plans to ensnare David. The land trembled under Saul's command, and innocent lives became collateral in the pursuit of one whom he viewed as threat. Yet God's hand remained over David, and as his foes closed in, the Almighty orchestrated every step. For even as darkness threatened to prevail, the promise of a shepherd king burgeoned like flowers in the desolate fields. So it was that one fateful night, as Saul lay defeated, exhausted within the confines of his castle, he resorted to seeking counsel from a medium in Endor. With desperation unmasking his true nature, he approached the spirit of Samuel, the prophet of God. "What shall I do?" he begged, the weight of his heart exposed. "The Philistines gather against me, and I am lost." In the isolation of Adullam, David's heart longed for his friend Jonathan, yet he sensed a divine shift. "Lord, let our covenant remain," he prayed fervently. For in the tapestry of struggle emerged a truth too profound to ignore. God was weaving a greater narrative. Could it be that through weariness and betrayal, the Lord was working a divine purpose? Beneath the cloak of despair, what glorious design awaited to be revealed? As David wandered deeper into the cave, the whisper of providence stirred anew, and he realized the true test was not merely survival, but faith, a journey toward the promise not yet fulfilled. Thus, the weight of destiny pressed upon him, leading them all towards an unfathomable revelation. For the Lord has sought a man after his own heart, a voice echoed through the night, surging forth as a promise locked within the chambers of heaven. What greater plan was God devising through the trials of these two souls? The answer lay ahead, beyond the valley, waiting to break forth in light. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden rays across. Jonathan, the son of Saul, stirred with unease in the palace. The weight of loyalty pressed upon him, a loyalty both to his father, the king, and to his beloved friend, David. "How long shall my father pursue him?" he murmured to himself, bitterness tainting his words. He recalled the bond they shared, a friendship forged in the fires of faith and mutual respect, each man reflecting the qualities of the other. Driven by love for David and a yearning for truth, Jonathan resolved to confront his father. He sought Saul, entering the royal chamber where the king brooded, shadows of despair flitting across his weary face. "My father," he began, his voice steady though his heart trembled, "why persecution of David? What has he done to deserve your wrath? He has only served you faithfully." Saul's fury erupted like the crashing of thunder, his eyes blazing. "You speak of loyalty, yet you defend the son of Jesse? Do you not see the threat he poses to my throne? If he lives, my kingdom is in peril." "Father," Jonathan implored, stepping closer, with courage igniting within him, "you know that David is innocent. He has fought your battles and brought victory to Israel. Could you not see that your obsession blinds you from the truth?" Saul's face twisted in anger, but within Jonathan's boldness there lurked a glimmer of hope. A fleeting silence hung in the air before Saul's venomous words slashed through it. "I know you wish to side with him, but I will not allow it. If you continue this treacherous path, you forsake your inheritance." With each word, Jonathan's heart ached, yet he could not abandon David. "I do not forsake my inheritance, father," he replied, with unwavering resolve. "The Lord has chosen David. He is the anointed one. Your anger leads us all to ruin." Saul, taken aback by the fierce loyalty of his son, raged on, but the spirit of Jonathan, kindled by divine purpose, refused to retreat. "The Lord is not bound by the ways of man," he declared. "He does not look upon the outward appearance, but sees the heart. Father, let your heart be softened." Yet the darkness within Saul festered, and in a moment of desperation, he lifted a spear against Jonathan. "By my hand David shall fall, and you, my son, are with him in treachery." Jonathan stepped back, his heart pounding. "Selfish ambition blinds you, yet I will not fight against the destiny God has ordained. Speak to David no more. His fate is in the Lord's hands." With those words, Jonathan turned, stricken, and fled the chamber, leaving behind a father consumed by madness. In the shadow of the castle, Jonathan made his way to a hidden grove known only to him and David. As he approached, the air thickened with palpable tension. "David," he called out, his voice filled with urgency, "Oh, beloved friend, my father's rage pursues you, and I come to warn you, to share the truth." David, emerging from the depths of the cave, met his friend's eyes. "Jonathan, the son of Saul, what news do you bring?" In that moment, amidst the rustling leaves and the chorus of birds giving way to stillness, Jonathan spoke. "My father has sworn to kill you. You must flee beyond the borders of our land, for danger draws near. Yet remember, our covenant before the Lord stands unchanged. I shall uphold it, even amidst this strife." As David took hold of Jonathan's shoulders, their bond fortified by assurance, they exchanged oaths of faith. "Whatever may come, we are one. You are my brother, and my heart remains bound to you." And as they clasped hands, both men felt the weight of destiny descending upon them, an embodiment of God's greater plan unfolding. What awaited them in the labyrinth of trials ahead was shrouded in divine mystery, yet the promise of the Lord thrummed in their hearts. "Do not fear, for although we walk through shadows, our steps are guided by God," Jonathan proclaimed, emboldened by the Spirit, for within the throes of upheaval, light would break forth from darkness. For in this separation, God weaves a tapestry of redemption we cannot yet see, and amidst adversity there lies a future of glorious hope. Thus they parted, each bearing the weight of their roles within a divine narrative painting a larger portrait of salvation. What wonders lay ahead, hidden beyond the veil of fear and uncertainty? The threads of providence were weaving rapidly, and within those threads, the promise of a king still thrummed for Israel, waiting to unfold in astonishing revelation. David fled swiftly from the hidden grove, the echoes of Jonathan's warning still resonating in his heart. His feet carried him to the wilderness of Ziph, where the trees stood tall, casting long shadows. Yet they could not shield him from the looming threats of Saul's wrath. As he ran, the weight of turmoil pressed upon his spirit. Yet within him glimmered a flame of hope, ignited by their covenant, rooted in their mutual love and obedience to the Lord. In the barren expanse, David turned to the Lord in prayer, seeking guidance amidst the chaos that engulfed him. "O Lord, I am but a servant in your hands. Preserve my life from the hand of the wicked. Should I not trust in your unfailing love?" His voice echoed among the rocks, a cry for deliverance that ascended like incense before the throne of heaven. Meanwhile, Saul raged against the heavens, consumed by a fury that clouded his judgment. "Call forth the Ziphites," he commanded, shaking the dust from his royal robes. "Where is that traitor? Tell me, where has David hidden himself? Surely he cannot escape the grip of my hand." His advisers looked upon him with trepidation, caught between the wrath of a king and the innocence of a faithful servant. Days melded into nights as David wandered the wilderness, seeking refuge in the caves and crevices of the rocky terrain. Even in his solitude, his heart remained steadfast. When he invited the Lord into his uncertainty, the Spirit of God assured him, "Fear not, for I am with you. You shall find favor in my sight." It was in this desolate place that David's faith burned brighter than the sun above. In the still of the night, surrounded by the howling winds, he penned psalms of lament and adoration. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" he recited, breathing in the truth of the words that spilled from his heart. Yet, unbeknownst to David, Jonathan made his way through the parched lands, driven by a loyalty that transcended the bonds of blood. He sought David through the wilderness, determined to uphold his promise. And when he found David encamped beneath an ancient olive tree, their eyes met, and silence spoke volumes of their shared burden. "Jonathan!" David exclaimed, his voice heavy with relief. "How is it that you have come to me in this dire hour?" With a mixture of love and sorrow, Jonathan replied, "I can no longer stay in the palace, for my father's heart is hard, and he seeks your life. But I have come to remind you of the Lord's vow. You are ordained to be king, and though shadows gather, the light of God will guide you." They embraced fiercely, two souls bound by destiny and divine purpose. "Together we will rise above this darkness, for we serve a mighty God," David declared. Yet even as they spoke of courage and deliverance, news of David's whereabouts reached Saul's ears, carried on the winds like a thunderous storm. "The Ziphites have betrayed you," their leader cried. "We have seen David hiding among us, and he must be captured." In the depths of his heart, Saul seethed with jealousy, for he knew that the anointing of the Lord had shifted from him to David. His determination to crush his rival intensified, for with each passing moment, the fear of the Lord's chosen rose like a flame within his breast. With haste, Saul gathered his men, marching toward the wilderness of Ziph, bent on fulfilling his evil intentions. As he advanced, a divine wind stirred the heavens, complicating his pursuit. As David and Jonathan parted once more, a sudden hush fell over the land, a sign indicating the peril that lay ahead. "What is to come, O Jonathan?" David questioned, fear mingling with faith. With solemn resolution, Jonathan replied, "The Lord's plans are unfathomable, my friend, yet trust this: He will not forsake you. In the midst of impending trials, the depths of God's sovereignty shall reveal itself. Remember, you are not alone." Thus, with a heavy heart, Jonathan returned to the palace, while David, cloaked under the divine protection of his God, prepared himself for the trials to come. In the silence of the wilderness, he sought the face of the Almighty, eagerly awaiting the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, knowing that within the tempest of his life, a promise awaited, longing to break free like the dawn. "Truly," David murmured in prayer, "you are my refuge and strength, and every shadow shall bow before your will. For I know not what lies ahead, but I trust in the unfolding of your purpose." What divine intervention awaited them in the clutches of darkness? The path of faith was laden with uncertainty, yet within that uncertainty, a glimmer of hope shimmered, whispering of God's ever-present promise. "Behold, I am doing a new thing." As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting a golden hue over the wilderness of Ziph, a storm brewed both in the heavens and in the hearts of men. David remained steadfast, seeking refuge in the light of his God. Yet the winds whispered dire tidings, for Saul's pursuit grew fiercer by the hour. In the palace, Jonathan clenched his fists in turmoil. The weight of loyalty bore heavily upon his chest. He could feel the churning of his father's wrath. "Father," he implored, courage swelling within him, "why does your heart burn with such bitterness against David? What harm has he done to you?" His voice trembled with a mix of love and fear, for he knew well the depths of Saul's madness. "Silence!" Saul thundered, his howl ripping through the air like thunder. "You dare speak in favor of that traitor? He seeks your throne. His very presence jeopardizes the kingdom. You must forsake this friendship and cast him out from among us." But Jonathan's resolve did not waver. "O king, the heart of David is pure. He serves you faithfully, and the Lord has not forsaken him. Might you recall the day the prophet Samuel anointed him? Has not the Spirit of the Lord departed from you and now seeks David?" Each word fell with gravity as Jonathan stood unyielding, pleading for reason in the face of tumult. Saul's face darkened with fury, and he raised his spear in a frenzy. "You would defend him? You, my own son? May the Lord judge between us, Jonathan. If you persist in this treachery, it will be your downfall." The room fell silent, thick with dread, as Jonathan stepped back, trembling yet resolute. "Father, I will not abandon truth," Jonathan whispered, the depths of his anguish evident in his eyes. "I must see David, for he is the anointed one, and I will not turn my back on the covenant we forged." With that, Jonathan fled the palace in haste, heart racing as he traversed the wilderness once more. His spirit urged him forward, for time was short, and he must reach David before the storm of his father's ambitions unleashed its fury. Reunited beneath the ancient olive tree, where the soil long bore witness to their covenant, Jonathan's gaze met David's. "I have defied my father," he breathed, "and I bring warnings of his wrath, but also the promises of our God. We must act swiftly." David, burdened yet emboldened by Jonathan's loyalty, replied, "The Lord is my shield and my fortress. Let us seek his counsel on this matter and rise above the threats that pursue us." Together, they fell to their knees, seeking the face of the Almighty, hearts united in prayer. With the night enveloping them, a profound stillness settled over the land, midges dancing in the fading light. As David prayed, the words of the Lord resonated in Jonathan's heart. "These trials are but the birth pangs of the covenant I will fulfill. Fear not, for I shall reveal my purpose through you both." In that moment of divine communion, the weight of God's assurance settled gently upon their shoulders. Deep within, both recognized the sovereign hand of the Almighty was at work. David's heart stirred with the knowledge that the path ahead would be fraught with peril, yet fear lost its grip amidst the revelation of God's steadfast love. "May we cling to the promises of our God," Jonathan declared, his voice steady, "for even in trial we will see the triumph of his purpose." With the dawning of a new day, they prepared for the road that lay ahead, knowing that the shadow of Saul hung heavy but could not eclipse the light of divine destiny. Yet as they set forth into the wilderness, Saul gathered his forces, thirsting for vengeance, believing himself the master of fate. Could he withstand the hand of God working through David, anointed for greatness? For as the Lord would have it, destiny was not in the scheming of men, but unfolding through the very trials that would shape a king. And above all, God whispered through the turmoil, "For I know the plans I have for you," declared the Lord, "plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." What would the outcome of this divine confrontation be? Would the darkness of betrayal within the heart of Saul crush the light of David's faith? The sovereign Lord had a purpose that was yet to be unveiled. As dawn broke over the rugged terrain of the wilderness, David and Jonathan pressed onward, aware that time was a fleeting ally. The oppressive weight of Saul's anger lingered like a storm cloud overhead. Yet amid the brewing chaos, hope sprang forth from the whispers of the Almighty. They ventured deep into an alcove, far from prying eyes, a sanctuary where their spirits could bolster each other against the trials that lay ahead. "David," Jonathan said, his voice a cautious whisper, "we must devise a plan. My father will leave no stone unturned. He seeks your life, and the kingdom is his madness." His brow furrowed with concern as he reflected on the urgent matter at hand. "Indeed, Jonathan," David replied, his gaze unwavering, "I have observed the hand of the Lord guiding me, even through this peril. Our covenant binds us, and I hold your loyalty close to my heart. But we must discover how the Lord desires us to act." Both men positioned themselves upon the earthy floor, imploring the Lord for guidance. With each prayer, the air filled with a palpable sense of divine expectancy. With every breath, they reaffirmed their faith in the one who had rescued David from the lion and the bear, who had delivered him from the hands of the Philistine giant Goliath. As they concluded their prayer, a stirring in Jonathan's spirit heralded understanding. "Let us employ a sign, David," he proposed. "I shall return to the palace and assess my father's intentions during the feast. I will conceal our plan. If all is well, I shall send a message via an arrow to you, telling of his heart. If the Lord's wrath is upon him, we shall know the truth." The resolve in David's eyes mirrored the fierce loyalty of Jonathan's heart. "You risk much, dear friend, but the Lord will honor our faith. Let us remain steadfast, for the purpose of the Lord shall not be thwarted." Thus, as Jonathan prepared to return to the palace, the uncertainty of the unfolding day loomed heavy in the air. David reminded Jonathan of the oath they swore, a covenant of unwavering friendship that would bear the weight of their fates. "May the Lord be witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever," he affirmed, recalling the promise made. Days passed, where each sunset signified the potential for conflict brewing on the horizon. Jonathan attended the feast, where his father's discontent simmered. "Why does the son of Jesse not dine with us?" Saul demanded, his voice laced with venom. "The coward avoids the consequence of his treachery." Each word cut through Jonathan's heart like a dagger, revealing the depth of Saul's madness. When the time for confrontation came, Jonathan revealed the truth. "He is not your enemy, father. David is honorable and seeks only to serve." Saul's eyes flared with rage, and he hurled accusations with chilling fervor. "You defend him? You abandon your father for a vile dog? May God's judgment be upon you as well." Jonathan fled from the feast, heart racing as he hastened to the designated place. Gathering his arrows, he whispered an urgent message to the winds, knowing the stakes were unbearable. "Let it be known," he declared, summoning the strength that only grace could provide. "The Lord's will be done." He took aim, releasing the arrows into the vastness of the horizon, each flight echoing the gravity of their fate. Meanwhile, in the solitude of the wild, David awaited news, clinging to the promise that God had made. His spirit was heavy with anticipation, and he sought solace in the memories of God's past deliverances. Each moment resonated with the lingering essence of the covenant that bound the Anointed One and the loyal prince. Then, in the far distance, the familiar sound of arrows slicing through the air reached David's ears like a beckoning call. As they struck the ground, each one spoke volumes of Saul's determination and Jonathan's courage. "Go, you must leave!" Jonathan's message rang fervently through the silent woodlands, echoing in David's heart. He grasped the urgency. "Be strong, my brother," Jonathan had proclaimed, "for the Lord will not forsake his anointing, nor his covenant promise." With renewed resolve, David turned toward an uncertain future, the light of a far-off hope guiding his steps. But as the shadows lengthened, a deeper mystery unfolded. For the Lord's hand was ever at work, crafting a narrative of redemption, not merely for David and Jonathan, but for the very nation that had turned its back on him. What divine plan was stirring beneath the surface? The assurance of the Almighty echoed once more. "My purpose shall be revealed, and through trial shall come forth your deliverance." David arose, and with the swiftness of a gazelle, he moved through the dense underbrush, the shadow of danger close at hand. Each step was heavy with the weight of uncertainty, yet beneath that weight lay a steadfast resolve. The promise of the Lord coursed through his veins. Away from the familiar comforts of home, in the desolation of the wild, he stopped to gather his thoughts. He raised his eyes to the heavens, seeking reassurance from the one who had sustained him thus far. "O Lord, my refuge and my fortress, guide me in the paths of righteousness." As he poured out his heart in prayer, the winds rustled the leaves, sounding like whispers of hope. Meanwhile, Jonathan, having fled the wrathful feast, found refuge in the shadows of the palace garden. The air was thick with the tension of unspoken words, and his heart was burdened by the chasm between loyalty to his father and the covenant love he shared with David. In his soul, a battle raged that echoed the tumult in the kingdom itself. "Father," he murmured under his breath, "how have you strayed so far?" He recalled their shared laughter, the bond of blood that had once been a source of strength. Now it felt like chains binding him to a man who sought to destroy the man he called brother. As dawn approached, the heavens declared sacred truths. Jonathan ventured to a secluded hilltop overlooking the valley, the place where he would send his final summons. The glimmer of dawn crowned the horizon with light, and as the sun ascended, so did the urgency of Jonathan's mission. With thoughts of David's safety swirling in his mind, he drew back the bow, aiming toward the designated mark. "Arise, O Lord," he prayed. "May this act bear witness to the truth of our covenant." With a steady hand, he loosed the arrow, and as it flew through the air, his plea resonated into eternity. The arrow struck near the mark, and Jonathan called out with all his might, his voice trembling but strong, "The arrow has passed beyond you." His heart quaked at the prospect of the impending separation. He waited, breathless, for David to hear the message, to act, to survive. In that moment, the ground beneath David's feet felt more like an anchor than a... With urgency, he made his way toward the voice that echoed faintly through the wilderness. As David approached the designated spot, he beheld Jonathan, and a flood of relief surged through him. They embraced fiercely, tears mingling with the dust of the earth beneath them. The shared covenant was tangible, a bond neither fear nor malice could sever. "The Lord's will be done, my friend," Jonathan spoke softly, the love in his heart palpable. "You must now flee to the wilderness." Yet, in the midst of their sorrow and the looming threat, a sense of divine purpose lingered in the air. For the Lord had a plan that spanned the breadth of their lives, one that transcended personal anguish and pointed toward the redemption of a people bound in hopelessness. As David turned once more to the wild woods, he felt an unmistakable movement of the Spirit, a whisper of fate that intertwined their destinies, assuring him, "The heart of a king is in the Lord's hands." Behind them, Saul, consumed by rage, searched relentlessly, unaware that the Lord was orchestrating a grand narrative, one that would shake kings and nations. "Who will rise to uphold your name, O God?" David's heart reverberated with the weight of that question as he ventured into the unknown. The forces of darkness gathered, but even within the folds of uncertainty, there lay a promise awaiting fulfillment. For the Almighty had declared, "In the shadows I craft a deliverance that shall lead to the salvation of many." What would unfold in this grand tapestry of his will, and how would David's humble beginnings in the wilderness transform the fate of a nation? The answer awaited in the depths of divine providence. As the sun crested the horizon with a warm embrace, David hastened into the depths of the wilderness, his spirit clouded by grief, yet stirred by the promise of the Lord. His skin prickled from the chill, and a multitude of thoughts throbbed in his heart like a drumbeat of uncertainty. With every step away from Jonathan, the weight of their covenant loomed larger, one man's destiny intertwined with another's sacrifice. "O Lord, my eyes are ever toward you," David cried in the stillness, his voice raw with emotion. "Hide not your face from me, lest I be like those who go down to the pit." He sought the heart of God amidst the chaos, pleading for clarity and strength. In the quiet, he sensed the nearness of the Almighty, the comfort of his promise cascading over him like a gentle rain. Meanwhile, in the palace, Saul's fury had reached a fever pitch. His heart, once generous and kind, was now a storm of bitterness and jealousy. Each moment he spent without sight of David ignited the fire of his wrath. "Bring me David," he demanded of his servants, his voice a low growl. The throne room trembled under the weight of his rage as he echoed the venomous desire to root out the one he deemed a rival. Yet within those palace walls, the atmosphere shifted as Abner, the commander of Saul's army, sensed a deeper dread in the king's heart. "My lord, what has troubled you? Surely these thoughts will not benefit the kingdom." Abner's words sought to sow seeds of reason amidst the growing tempest, yet Saul's eyes blazed with fear of losing his crown. "Fear not for the throne, for it is mine by right," he spat. But deep down, the reflection of unyielding fear reverberated through his heart. In the wilderness, David sought refuge in the caves, each echo of the rocky chambers mirroring his cries of anguish. The shadows loomed large, but from the corners of despair, hope flickered faintly. In the solitude, he began to use his harp, letting melodies cultivated in the fields carry him toward the heart of divine communion. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," he sang softly, each note piercing the darkness like light through fog. As days turned to weeks, word spread among the people of Israel, and those disillusioned by Saul's tyranny began to flock to David. Outcasts, the distressed, and the disheartened gathered at his cave, forming a band of misfits loyal to the Anointed One. "You are the one the Lord has chosen," one of them said, eyes shining with faith. "You will surely grasp the kingdom." Yet amid this growing strength, David's heart remained burdened. "Although the people rally unto me, I am not yet king. I am a fugitive, bearing the weight of divine promise." As he wrestled with his thoughts, Jonathan, crossing a great expanse to seek his friend, became a beacon on his journey, unyielding to fear or contempt. "David," Jonathan called, as he finally reached the cave, breathless yet determined. The embrace between the two men spoke volumes of a friendship forged in the fires of loyalty. "You are not alone. The Lord has confirmed your path." As they shared and whispered prayers, the weight of God's plan felt palpable in the air. "My father seeks to crush you, yet I stand here," Jonathan declared, his voice unwavering. "We are chosen for a greater purpose. The Lord has set a course for his people." Thus they prayed together, declaring victory despite looming threats, a whispered testimony of God's unswerving grace amidst calamity. "In the midst of trials," David professed, his voice lifting to the heavens, "we will yet see the salvation of the Lord." For unbeknownst to them, the very trial ordained by Saul would give birth to a kingdom. And in the heart of the wilderness, God was crafting not merely a king, but a leader destined to shepherd his people through treachery and despair. Yet who shall remain steadfast, David pondered, for even in dark hours the faithful echoes of Yahweh promised hope. Behind the veil of great anguish, the tapestry of redemptive grace was being woven, waiting to unfold in the grand design of the Almighty. What sacred chapter awaited them, hidden within the pages of the divine mystery? Narrative? Only time would reveal God's sovereign plan, intricately veiled but ever present as he formed the stories of those who would rise. As the sun dipped low behind the hills, casting shadows across the rugged landscape, David found himself once more enveloped in prayer. The wilderness, a harsh and barren realm, became his sanctuary. "O Lord," he cried, his voice echoing among the rocks, "my heart trembles in fear, yet clings to trust. Fortify my spirit as I tread through this valley of shadows." Meanwhile, in the palace, Saul's obsession spiraled further into madness. His heart, once infused with the Spirit of God, now held only jealousy and rage. The whispers of discontent among the people surrounded him, gnawing at his sanity. He summoned his advisers, yet their attempts to appease him fell on deaf ears. "You must act decisively, King Saul," an adviser urged. "David gathers strength in the wilderness, a king made from the ashes of your throne." "No," Saul thundered, eyes aflame with desperation. "He will not rise. I will strike him down before he can bloom." In his heart, he sensed the prophetic words over David, but he rejected them in prideful defiance. Yet, unbeknownst to Saul, the hand of God was upon David, guiding him through the trials that would prepare him for kingship. Day by day, the fugitive grew in stature as he nurtured bonds with those who suffered under Saul's tyranny. Among them were the disillusioned, the outcasts, the lost. Under David's leadership, a mighty, loyal band formed. "Let us rise together," he proclaimed, strong in faith, "for we serve a God who delivers." In the cave of Adullam, where once fear hung heavy in the air, a spirit of hope now blossomed. David spoke to his gathered friends. "We are more than mere men. We are the chosen of the Lord. The God of Israel shall not forsake us." As their hearts united, a surge of strength coursed through them, igniting a fervor for the destiny laid before them. At this pivotal moment, Jonathan, with courage ignited by love, journeyed to David one last time. He found him amidst the rugged crags, where the tender whisper of friendship broke through the tumult of fear. "David," he breathed, stepping forward with urgency, "I have heard my father's decree. The fury within him will surely rise anew. You must flee further into the wilderness, but know this, our bond remains unbroken." David turned, meeting Jonathan's gaze with unshed tears. "Oh, my brother, your heart is a light amidst my darkness. Your loyalty shields me as the armor of God shields a warrior." They clasped hands, the weight of their covenant heavy yet full of divine promise, as they spoke sacred words over their destinies. "Though paths may split, we will see the day when the Lord fulfills his promise," Jonathan said softly, firm in faith. "You shall reign as king over Israel, for it is the Lord's desire." There, in the presence of God and each other, they raised the heartfelt prayer to the Almighty, declaring together, "May your will be done, Lord, according to your great purpose." As the dawn broke and the first light illuminated the landscape, the dark shadows over Saul cast aside the dawn of David's ascension. For in that moment, the Almighty turned the hearts of many. The people of Israel, inspired by David's unwavering faith, began to rally around the truth. "Long live the King," echoed among the hills, a proclamation of unity as the eyes of the nation turned toward the Anointed One. In the palace, Saul's heart raced with dread as the people began to murmur against him. His jealousy morphed into paranoia, leading him to seek counsel from twisted alliances. Yet God's providence intervened, whispering truths through the mouths of prophets hidden afar. "Beware, King Saul," they warned, "the son of Jesse has the Lord's favor." In a moment of fervent desperation, Saul sent his men to capture David, believing he could snuff out the flame of hope ignited by the Lord. But God intervened, as he always does, and a divine confusion befell Saul's soldiers. As they marched toward David's hideout, the Spirit of the Lord paralyzed them, causing them to turn back in fear, allowing David and his men to escape undetected. Amidst the clamor of chaos, David was emboldened anew. "Fear not, for the Lord shall deliver us from all who rise against us. His covenant stands strong and immovable." And so, the band of followers, now mighty and filled with heavenly purpose, began to prepare themselves for the eventuality of the throne, knowing their wait would not be in vain. With rising hope and faith, David took the counsel of his men, forging plans for strength, protection, and future victory. As his journey unfolded, each step led him deeper into his destiny, where the lessons learned in the wilderness shaped the heart of a king. Together with Jonathan, he vowed to stand in faith, trusting that the Lord would fulfill every promise spoken over him. Then a day came when the tide turned, for the Philistines gathered against Saul, drawn by the scent of weakness now rising from the throne. As they marched toward Israel, Saul was faced with greater dangers that bore down upon him like a deluge, the imminence of his demise drawing near. In a climactic moment, the battle was relentless, the armies clashing together in a swell of chaos. Call after call was made, arrows flew, and swords clanged, yet the hands of the Almighty guided every moment. In the midst of the battle, Saul met his swift end, falling upon his own sword as despair consumed him. Thus it unfolded, as divinely ordained. The cries of the heartbreak of war echoed through the land, but as Israel mourned, David stood ready to ascend. Gaining favor among the people, they crowned him as king, a shepherd under the Lord's direction, the faith fulfilled amidst the trials that tested him. And in memory of his beloved friend Jonathan, who stood resolute against the tide of despair, David declared, "A day of remembrance. For he who loved well deserves honor. We were bound by covenant, and his heart shall live forever in the annals of our history." In time, Israel indeed became a land unified under David's reign, a beacon of hope shining brightly. The shadows of despair faded beneath the crown of salvation cast forth in a covenant birth, a lineage that would bring forth the greatest king of all. With hearts uplifted in praise, the faithful arose to remember, their voices lifted in worship to the God who fulfills his promises. Great is his faithfulness, his mercy is from everlasting to everlasting. And in that moment, hope blossomed anew, like flowers in the desert, signifying the persistence of God's divine plan. The people of Israel witnessed not just a king, but a shepherd whom God had shaped for greatness, ushering in a legacy that would echo through generations. What a wondrous story of redemption! What marvelous grace we see unfold! May we hold fast to the promises of the Lord as He fulfills His purpose in our lives today. Now, beloved, let us carry this truth forward. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word, for the journeys yet to be unearthed will transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithms, allowing more souls to encounter His truth. Comment below with your spiritual reflections. How has this story impacted your faith journey? Your voices of praise and testimony matter. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. Take action. Don't wait even one more second, for only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content to reach the lost. Let's spread His light together for His glory.